Hello, my gorgeous friends. Welcome back to Creator Codes. Today's episode is a very special one because I will be sharing with you my own personal experience of what I have shifted out of and into, and how I've actually completely changed my reality. I literally just went on a walk and I was like walking really slowly and just staring at every leaf and hearing every sound and just noticing reality in a totally different way. it was so beautiful, and of course it was like the most perfect day and it just felt so divine. So it's been an interesting journey getting here, and I want to share with you so hopefully you can find some inspiration or feel into any downloads or anything that might come through this transmission today from this podcast episode. Before I get into it, I do want to invite you to my new membership. It is the Creator Codes Collective. And this is a membership where we have like-minded beings, like-minded souls, and humans all over the planet that gather on this one platform to discuss certain ideas like this. And I definitely will be going more into this and the unraveling of all of this that I'll be talking about on the podcast today in this membership. I have very special readings for you guys. Sometimes they'll be a lot longer. They'll go more in depth. There's classes for you to access for free. And every month we will host a live class. And this month, or next month rather, if you're listening to this before September 7th, it is on September 7th, the full moon eclipse, which is a very powerful day. And right now it is eclipse season, and I know you guys are feeling it. And I think that's why all of this is happening. I don't want to say that's why. The energies are right. The planets are aligned for all of this to be happening in my life right now. And I know a lot of people are about to also experience that. And I am honored to help anchor any of that in for other people, because other people and situations and podcasts have helped me anchor in this new way of life, this new frequency, this vibration that feels unfuckable with. Thank you very much. So, for more information for the Creator Codes Collective, the link is below, and I can't wait to see some of you on the full moon eclipse. Oh my gosh, powerful day, and can't wait for what is to come in that membership. But let's get into it. Let's get into this episode. So there's been a few catalysts here. There's 3 different things, probably more, that have happened that have really helped me feel into this anchoring in of this frequency. So, you know how on the spiritual path, it's a lot of ups and downs. It's a lot of big realizations and then diving deep into the underworld, and then a big epiphany and a breakthrough, and then deep underworld. And it's like this up and down. I don't know if that's your experience. From what I've heard from the people I've worked with, that is a lot of people's experiences, including my own, where something would happen where it's like, wow, I feel so inspired. It's kind of like going to a retreat or listening to a really inspiring podcast and having a download. And then it's like, whoa, I feel so inspired. I see life so differently. But there's a part of you that's kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's a part of you that's like, I don't know if this is too good to be true, so it probably is. And that right there reflects the belief that it's not sustainable to be content and happy and to feel at peace. Like, a lot of us believe that that's just not sustainable because it has not been in the past. But what's really cool about this journey is our past was actually there to show us that polar opposite of what we are really anchoring in right now, which is that consistency. Right? It's very much that masculine holding of the energy where it's like, baby girl, I got you, right? It's God, right? Holding us and being like, I got you. I got you. You can, no matter what happens, like we're solid here. And that's what I'm really, really feeling. Now, I have to give a shout out. Like I said, there's been a few different things that have happened. Okay. About 3 that I'll talk about right now. One is a few nights ago. Time is such a weird thing, but I think it was a few nights ago, where I don't even remember what happened, but whatever happened, I just was crying and kind of surrendering all of my energy to the divine. I felt like a child of God that was crying to God and being like, just, you got this, like, take over. Like, I relinquish control to you. Please. Please take over. Like, literally take over. Okay. Like, I surrender. And it was like one of those moments. I'm seeing Jim Carrey in Bruce Almighty, where he's like, God, just die. He's like yelling, and it's just such a cathartic moment. And it's like this like breaking point. And that's what it felt like for me. And it's interesting because I've had many of those cathartic moments. A lot of times it was on mushrooms or, journeying here or there, and like maybe under the influence of something that really like sparked that depth of getting in touch with certain wounds and exposing those, and right, like the whole healing journey. It can be a wild one. But this was different because I related to my experience that I was moving through in a different way. I was not crying and feeling sorry for myself or feeling like it should be different. I was actually really expressing so much anger that had been pent up in me in regards to my spiritual journey, which is so interesting. I was kind of looking at the different buckets of life and separating them. But in reality, it's like a spider web where they play off of each other. So in the past, I was taking my emotions, putting them here, my spiritual journey, putting it over here, my family over here, my career here, right? Like all these different buckets of life. Not that emotions are actually an area of life, because ultimately your emotions infiltrate every area of life, right? But what I'm trying to say is I really separated emotions from my spiritual journey. And I was like intellectualizing a lot. And it was interesting that leading up to this point, a lot of my teaching was coming from a place of sharing how important it was to embody any sense of anger or sadness or any kind of negative emotion that was making you feel less than. It was really important to actually experience this emotion in order to allow it to move through and to kind of like a bubble. Nellie's on screen. Like a bubble, pop that bubble and deflate it so it's not the emotion that's taking over or making decisions as I continue to live my life. So in that night, a few nights ago, it was so interesting to experience such deep anger, like experience that very intense emotion. I know you all have experienced that type of thing at one point or another. But the divinity was there with me and kind of talking me through it, because I was like surrendering to that. I was like, I'm not trying to make this different. I'm just telling you how angry I am. And I'm feeling this energy like in my throat chakra, which is interesting because that's exactly what I spoke it out. I wasn't just like thinking about it, thinking about how angry I was. I spoke it out. I was like, yo, I'm so angry right now. I'm so crying, snotty, like so messy. I let myself be messy. And I felt like I was being held. And I was able to be in this childlike state where it was a little bit of like throwing a tantrum in a way, which oftentimes we perceive adults having extreme emotions as just not having their shit together or whatever it is, right? There's a lot of ideas out there that are not super healthy to subscribe to. And to a certain level, it's like, yeah, as adults, we are meant to take responsibility. But what does that actually mean? Take responsibility for, your life, but we're going to get into the control aspect here as far as like what that responsibility is and what that control looks like. Because for myself, for a long time, it felt like I really had to take control to be responsible for my life. But in this experience, I realized through experience, not just knowledge, that I would like the experience of having such high emotions, but giving it over to God. I was like, take over. You got this. You got this. And that was me also saying like, I trust you. I trust in you. Because ultimately our ego will do everything it possibly can to take control in order to feel safe. But that in turn makes us not feel safe because it's from the ego. It's not from the divine. When we are held in the divine, that is true safety. And when we can see that for what it is, we can maybe have a little tantrum or a big tantrum like I did and just feel this major, it was like something penetrated in my cells. It was so interesting because I had never had that experience before. And then I had a couple more experiences where I had never had that experience after that. The next experience I had was when I got a call from my mom, and she was telling me things, just family stuff that like I didn't have any control over, but it was basically people feeling very negatively towards me, she was telling me. And again, it was like a lot of emotion that came through immediately, which I allowed. But what was really interesting is it moved through so fast to the point where I was like, should I feel more bad? Because that's been my past, especially when it comes to family and being accepted and the way that my family views me, like the people that love you, right? The people that love me, view me, that impacted me so much to the point where in my childhood, like I molded myself to make sure I was lovable and I didn't do anything wrong. And so, of course, immediately when I got this call and I received this information, it made me feel really hurt. It made me feel really sad. But then I realized this has nothing to do with me. The way that other people are feeling and thinking about me has nothing to do with me. Why should that taint my experience of just life, right? So it was just really interesting to receive that information that in the past it would have ruined my whole day, maybe my whole week, maybe just like that continuing feeling of distaste and not being accepted and feeling like I needed to heal and figure out why I have such wounds where I just can't just move on. But it was a matter of 20 minutes where it moved through me extremely fast, and it wasn't bypassing. Like I got really upset, but I was having the conversation again with the divine of what, like, this is happening for me. I even said that. I was like, I know everything's going to be okay. I know this is happening for me. When these things happen, I don't think of them as like, oh God, here we go again with this person or with this situation or the other shoe's dropping. I knew it. I was just like, this is so interesting because this is highly, highly triggering for me immediately. And that was the old wounds that I used to really hang on to that were coming up, and it dissolved so fast because I realized that's not who I am anymore. I'm not someone who's holding on to all of this stuff that is just so triggered and hung on to and triggered and hung on to and feeling like a victim to what other people are feeling and thinking about me. So it was really cool to witness many lessons in just that one phone call of my mom unconsciously projecting her own guilt and sadness onto me. She kept saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. This is a horrible way to start your day, right? And I forgive her. She was doing the best that she could. She thought she was doing the best thing ever. And it was the best thing because I learned through it. And I'm so grateful that she did feel that call to call me, even though it's none of my business how these other people are talking bad about me behind my back. That's none of my business, especially because they're not even coming to me about it, right? And then it's also the other family members and other people that were really angry with me. I also forgive them because I've been really tapping in with Jesus energy. And there's a quote by Yeshua that's something like, forgive them for they do not know what they are doing. And it's so true. I'm just kind of seeing this like anger and attacking and like this like really harsh energy that's coming my way as something that like they don't realize that they don't even realize what they're doing. And they don't realize that they're acting from a place of their own lack and limitation. And I'm not here to judge them for that. I'm here to forgive them, because ultimately everyone is a reflection of myself. If I can't forgive them, then I cannot forgive myself for certain things that I have done in the past that maybe I wouldn't be doing this, today with this state of consciousness. So that was another thing that happened that was really interesting. And then I listened to a podcast episode, and I'll link it below because it's quite pivotal. Well, there's been many things that have happened, but those were two like actual life experiences where I witnessed myself in a different way and responded in a different way rather than just reacting and rolling with that reaction. I let my human experience the emotion, and then it was like, boom, suddenly on the other side of that, like after I got that call from my mom, it was literally so painful, but how wild that 1 hour later, 30 minutes later, I was actually feeling so much bliss. Like I had never felt better. Like, and I that's why I was like, wait, should I feel more sad or angry? Because in the past I would have hung on to that. But that's not who I am anymore. I'm letting my soul and God, the divine, take over. And the divine would not hold grudges or feel wounds so deep that I don't know. Like, there's just this surrender and forgiveness and love for the circumstance, for myself, and for all that is. And again, it's not bypassing. So it was really interesting to see how fast I moved through that, unlike any other time ever in my life before. And then we had the last, episode, the last class for Tarot Intuition Mastery for round 3. And let me tell you, man, right before that class, I looked down the hallway, there was this angel that suddenly like showed itself to me. And I'm not talking like spiritually, like literally a figurine of like an angel that's in this house, in my grandparents' house where I'm staying. I was all like as far away as possible, and I see this angel just like show itself to me. Excuse me. And I was like, okay, I like that. I really like that. That's cool. That's like not an accident that it's just like, everything goes out of focus. I'm getting the chills. And suddenly it was like that angel was the only thing in focus. And I hadn't noticed it before. It was just so interesting. And then I get onto this Tarot Intuition Mastery call. And there was this huge light beam coming through my camera. And everyone saw it as well. And it was so cool. I was trying to figure out, I was like moving my hand and like trying to figure out, wiping my screen, like, where is this coming from? It just didn't make sense as far as like the physical world goes of where the light was coming from. And it was so beautiful because there was such a divine presence in class. And there was so much divine energy moving through every single person that shared, because it was our last class. Everyone had the opportunity to share a channeled message, a tarot reading, whatever was, inspiring or they just wanted to share. And it was all so crazy how they built off of each other. Everyone shares. And it was magical. Someone said like that shifted something in me, just that last class. And everyone was in tears. Like, it was so magical. And it was so cool how that was at the end of the day where this occurrence happened, where my mom called me and I started off my day in like deep just pain feeling, and then moved through that, saw the angel, came on class, saw this big light beam coming through. And I just feel like the divine really has taken over. Especially after that like major cathartic night of just like relinquishing all control to the divine, and feeling the safety in that. And then the last thing here that I want to share before giving like the insight here, as far as like actually what does that mean, giving over control to the divine? Like, how do you surrender to the divine? There's a podcast episode that I will put in the show notes, and it's the Know Thyself podcast with Andre, and he had a guest on, Aaron Abke, who I've always loved. He's incredible. I love that he teaches about Jesus and in Jesus's teachings, but not in the context of like the religious context. He used to be a pastor. He's a third generation pastor, but now he's teaching in a way that's like from more of the truth of what Yeshua was teaching versus all of the ways that the Bible has been shifted and changed, and these teachings have been manipulated to maybe make you fear God, because that's not ultimately what Jesus was teaching. So you can look more into him. And he also just came out with a book, and that's what he was promoting on this podcast. And he really went into all of the ways that the ego, the 3 beliefs that the ego holds that really just keep us in suffering. And this is what really inspired me, was the third point, especially of when we are trying to control our life. Actually, let me just read the quote that he said. Whatever you're trying to control in your life is just an area of your life you're not trusting God. I'm going to say that again if you want to write that down, because I wrote that down. Whatever you're trying to control in your life is just an area of your life you're not trusting God. And so I wanted to bring this up because this podcast is obviously called Creator Codes, and I talk about how you are the creator of your reality. And with this new level of awakening, if you want to call it that, I just want to clarify what I mean by you being the creator of your reality, because ultimately there is only one creator, right? So by me saying like you are the creator of reality, I'm not saying you are God. I'm saying you are a piece of God. You are a unique aspect of the divine. And we have Rob here, who's also a unique aspect of the divine. Do you want to get on my lap? You want to speak in the microphone? What is it, honey? These cats, they've been responding to me differently ever since I've been responding to life differently and to myself differently. It's been really interesting to witness. Oh, you're such a purr face. I love it. So I just want to really emphasize the point that being a creator does not mean you are in control, because that's what the ego does. And I highly recommend you listen to this episode, because the way that Aaron breaks down these topics and the ego is unlike any other person I've heard talk about the ego, because it seems like there's just a lot of demonization of the ego and like this idea of the ego being egotistical and all of these things that aren't necessarily incorrect, but the way Aaron breaks it down is more focused and very helpful as far as if you feel stuck in your life, if you feel like you have been suffering. This is one aspect that I wanted to bring to the table today, because this is what I have just done, which is like give away the control. I'm not in control anymore. I am in control, right? The I is God, right? The piece of God that I'm allowing to move through my being. That's the I, capital I, right? But the little me is not in control. The human, beautiful human self is not in control. She is the conduit of the divine. And so that's what I really just want to say about creator codes, is like these codes, especially moving forward with all of my perspective shifts and awakenings and ways that I am relating to life and to God and to myself and to responsibility, radical responsibility. It's not about feeling like you are responsible for all circumstances that happen, that you create in your life. Okay? Because ultimately, you're not, like they even talk about it in the podcast, like you're not making your heart beat right now, and you can't make it stop. So who actually is in control? It's God. It's all that is. And we're all a part of that. And so when we, as like the smaller self, tries to take control, that is not trusting in the divine. And so that's why recently it's been such a theme that I've talked about. Maybe you've heard me say, like, I've really been giving up my free will to the divine will. And just by reiterating that in my teachings and in myself, it's clicking. It has clicked. It's clicked in. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. And in that podcast episode as well, they go into how Aaron talks about how a lot of people look for these major epiphanies and these like major awakenings and this like, I've got it. That's it. I'm here. It's a journey. As long as we're alive, we are in this journey. And it's about our relationships, because we are in relationship with literally everything. I'm in relationship with this podcast microphone, with my body, with my clothes, with my mom, with my cats, with lovers, right? We're always in relationship with this chair, with this house, with this place, right? We're in relationship with literally my jewelry, with everything. And so when we are living life and our relationships are showing us where we are in denial or in lack or trying to take control, showing us that we're trying to take control too much, it's going to slap us in the face. And it's going to life is going to like give you the opportunity to release that control, to release that lack, because that's not true. There's no lack in this universe. There's no lack. And the only one that is in control is God. And just like it's beating your heart every single day, it's creating your life every single day. And so being the creator of your life is surrendering to the divine and being the conduit of the creator. So you are also an aspect. You are a creator in that sense. And it has nothing to do with controlling your life. So I just want to make that clear, especially moving forward with this podcast. Creator Codes is about the codes of the divine that you allow to move through you and you can experience in this universe to learn more about yourself. Because the law of reflections is true. Anytime we are being reflected back something that's really uncomfortable, it's to show us that our ego is taking over. That means there's a certain belief that is clinging on for dear life that has been keeping you in this scarcity and lack, which is just not true. And it's literally God showing you that you don't need to live that way anymore. You can be free because you are free. So start perceiving yourself in that way where you don't have to cling to what should happen, because that is the denial of God, which is quite the epiphany, right? And like experiencing this in your body, which is what has happened, has been so pivotal. I'm going to read another quote. I have some things I wrote down here. The moment you're trying to control something, you have stepped out of trust, which means you aren't in line anymore for the good outcome life wants to bring you, but you're just going to keep attracting more of the opposite, right? And I would say too, like, not just attracting more of the opposite, but that's what you're creating as far as your energy field goes. You're creating the opposite of what life actually wants to gift to you, because you're not allowing life to gift it to you, because you're trying to control something, which is stepping out of trust of the divine process of life. So pivotal. So something that Aaron goes into in this podcast episode is basically, he says like there's a way that you can work with yourself and, you know, certain affirmations and things that you can bring up in these moments. And so first it is, I think it's called positively denying the lack. So it's feeling good in that denial of like what's not true. And what he says is, I deny all belief that I am separate or I'm in control or I'm the doer. However that resonates with you, like I deny all belief that I am separate or I'm in control or that I am the doer. Because that is a heavy responsibility when you feel like you need to do it all. It's all up to you. If people are happy, if you're happy, all of these things, if certain things happen, like it's not up to you. So I deny all belief that I am separate, or I'm in control, or I am the doer. Okay, so that's like a positive denial. And then you want to replace that with, I am not in control, I am being lived. And Aaron calls this requalifying your experience. Again, I am not in control, I am being lived. That's pretty cool. It's not all up to you. It's not up to you, period. But you get to decide to relinquish that control so you can be lived by the divine. And so he says to drill this philosophy daily and ask yourself like what you're trying to control when something comes up. What is the belief underneath that anger? Usually it's anger. Sometimes it's sadness, but usually that's connected with anger as well, right? When you're trying to control, you're just not in trust. And trust is the ultimate requalifier of control. So what is the belief underneath what you're trying to control? And it might be you believe that you're lacking love. You can say, this is the example he gave, is sadness. What are you trying to tell me? And you'll hear it if you sit with this. And you'll hear the belief that you're lacking in love. That's an example, of course. And so receive that message and requalify it with those statements, right? I'm not in control, I'm being lived. I deny all belief that I am separate or I am in control or I'm the doer. Affirm that you are in control and that you are being lived. And so it's really cool because emotions are not something that we want to bypass because they are the messengers, just like every, situation outside of us. If it makes us feel a certain way, that is the messenger of where we are in our ego, and that's taking over rather than our soul-led lives. And so Andre also quoted the Tao, saying, the master does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. And that's what it really means to live your life as a human. Because again, let me say that again. The master does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. This is a lot to meditate on, okay? And so that doesn't mean you're just sitting around all day being like, well, the divine's got this. Well, you are the conduit here. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means knowing that what you're doing, there's not an attachment of the outcome because that is ego, period. When you are attached to a certain outcome, that is ego trying to take over, take control, and make sure that you have this false idea of safety that you've been clinging onto for so long. That is not, it's actually the opposite of safety. Fear is the indicator of you trying to be in control. So if you feel scared, or like sometimes it's sneaky, the fear, if you sit with it, you'll be able to feel like, okay, yeah, the fear is speaking to me right now. Fear is the indicator that you are trying to be in control, right? Because fear will make you act in a certain way that will create this idea from the ego that you need to do something about this. Otherwise, you are not safe. You can't handle this, or whatever it is. Fear will take over, which is the ego taking over. And that is the control. And so if you want to release that control to the divine, it's trusting and surrendering to the divine. And it doesn't have to be super complicated, just like how I did the other night. I was like, take over, you got this, all right? Like, please take over. And I have to say, I've done a lot of this work for many, 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 many years. And so I don't want to say like it just happened, snap of a finger, I had an awakening, boom, that's it. This is a never-ending journey. I'm not there. Like, I'm neither here nor there. Like, this is a journey. It's not like, I want to be clear. I'm not like, I feel like this is so silly to say. I'm not fully enlightened. I don't think any human really can be while we're in the physical body, but there's enlightening, there's a frequency, there's a consciousness that I've like expanded into that feels so beautiful. And I'm not done yet. Like, I'm not done yet. But I'm sharing this because this is possible for all of us, especially if you have been doing this work for so long. That's what overnight success is, whether it be in business or whatever area of life. Overnight success doesn't actually happen. It's the culmination of everything that happens, and then suddenly, boom. Just like it has felt like for me on the spiritual area of life, boom. It feels like it just like, boom, happened. And it's really cool that this happened while I'm here in New York, which is my hometown, while I'm in this house, my grandparents' house, where my mother grew up since she was about 5 years old, I believe. And so think about the energy I'm in right now. I have to say as well, there's many Bibles around. There's many angels. There's passages everywhere. Anywhere in the corner, every corner of the house, there's these like beautiful passages from the Bible or from Jesus. That's really inspiring and also is just helping infuse this into me, which is pretty cool. It's pretty freaking cool. So this has been the next level of my own personal awakening. And those words do seem limiting to what I'm experiencing because I have gone through many of these like different spiritual awakenings, but this feels more grounded. It feels more stable, and it feels more like true. It doesn't feel like, well, this is cool, but what's going to happen tomorrow? Because I don't know if I can sustain this. I feel sustained by the love of God. I feel sustained by my complete surrender in knowing that I'm truly taken care of. And I don't need to figure everything out. I don't need to control everything. I don't need to plan it. Because when I'm allowing God, and I'm wearing a shirt that literally says God today, to move through me, when I'm letting God move through me, I don't need to try to do anything. It's God's way. And it's so exciting. And so something I wrote down earlier when I was like thinking about this episode was nothing outside of me dictates my state of being. Now, it's almost like an advanced concept if you are not at that point where you've gone through the polarity and seeing that and then challenging that and all of these things. It's not a linear journey here, but I'm just thinking about myself a couple of years ago. And if someone were to tell me nothing outside of you dictates your state of being, I'd be like, yeah, cool. But like, how? I don't really get that. Because if everything's going to shit around me, how do I not feel like shit? That's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of this. It's the true embodiment and integration of the spiritual knowledge and wisdom that I have learned, and seeing that when I am letting the outside dictate myself, that is me trying to take control of what I think should happen. It's not trusting. And it's also feeling lack. It's feeling like I am lacking because of what's happening around me. Things should be differently. That's me shitting on God. When I say that, I'm shitting all over God. God is creating everything around us right now so we can see ourselves more clearly and so we can surrender and basically like fill those holes in our creator field with love and acceptance and that sweet surrender to the point where our outside world actually will shift because our inner world is shifting. Because the only time you're experiencing horrible things on the outside is when you react and you take it as something that is, I don't know, a personal attack, just like what happened with that phone call, right? If you're taking it as something that's not true, the lesson is going to keep happening over and over again. You're being called to relinquish control. You're not meant to be in control. And your ego will fight this. Your ego will fight this. But that's okay. You practice. And one day you will have it click in more, and then it will click in more, and it will click in more, just like Aaron says on the podcast. It's not about getting to a place of enlightenment. Boom, that's it, we're done. It's about the journey and being 1% more enlightened every day. Meaning, when you have a certain emotion that comes up, you speak with it. What are you telling me, sadness? And then when you take that information of, I don't feel like I have enough, I'm not loved. Okay, well, there you go. There you go. That's why this is happening, to show you that's what you're believing, which is not true. God wants you to feel all the love that you are. And that's always coming your way. Life loves you. Reality loves you. God loves you. Jesus loves you. Period. And so anytime we don't believe that, and we see ourselves as so separate from the love of God or from the universe, that's when it's going to show us. And it's probably going to be a little painful, so it can wake us up to see the truth of ourselves and of reality and of God's love that is infinite and so abundant. There's no lack. So, wow. I hope this episode woke something up in you, or shifted something, or reaffirmed something. If you have had a similar experience, or if you have questions, or if you have epiphanies, anything, please comment below or send me a message on Instagram, send me an email. I want to hear from you, because this is a very pivotal time, and I'm feeling my heart just feels so open right now. It feels so beautiful. I would love to hear from you, and I'm excited to see how this next iteration of myself, which is very stable, it feels stable. Yes. Anyways, I will be talking more about this in the Creator Codes Collective. So definitely get in there. I do have some founding member spots left, which is a lower price point for getting in on this membership. For as long as you are a member, you will have discounts on one-on-one readings and my courses. And I have another course that's coming out pretty soon. And it's just what God is telling me to do. So I shall listen. And I know it's going to benefit you guys in many ways to be a part of this membership, my courses, if you want to work with me one-on-one, or if you just want to, continue to listen to my podcast and take a peek at what I'm up to on Instagram. Either way, I'm sending you so much love. I love you. God loves you. Allow the divine to take over. And I know it could feel a lot easier said than done, but it's very possible, especially with everything I've experienced and just trying for so long to feel at peace. And suddenly it happened when I stopped trying. Because trying is the energy of clenching. It's like this, that is the ego trying to take over. It's very contracted. That's a negative feeling, actually. And so when you release that, and then you trust and you surrender, it's like, ah! And it is a lived experience. So it's not something you can mentally just think about. Although a lot of things that I've learned have led me to this point. So wherever you are in your journey, you got this. I'm sending you so much love. This is such a beautiful ride that we are on together here on Earth. And let's just continue to walk each other home. So good. So good. All right. I'm sending you all so much love. I can't wait to see some of you in CCC, the Creator Codes Collective. And I will catch you on the next episode of Creator Codes. Bye-bye for now.